What's going on? Welcome back to Trending Stocks. Today we're going to talk to you about Faraday Future. I want to give you an overview of some of the current data points and break it down on what is coming this week. Before we get into any of that, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. And with that said, let's get right to it. So on Friday, it did go down 8.3%. As far as volume, 20.4 million shares were traded, 19.7 is the average. So pretty good amount of volume for it being a Friday. Regrettably, not a lot of long investors getting into Faraday. As you can kind of see, no transactions on the secondary market, and interestingly enough, no transactions on the dark pool. So it seems like nobody really wants to touch Faraday, and so that is kind of unfortunate. And as I've said in the past, Faraday does need to put something out, and it has been a very long time. So the last news that they did come out with was on March 4th, and it wasn't really anything, not really any reason to buy nor sell. So it's really just an unfortunate circumstance that investors are in, because I'm sure a lot of people still do believe in Faraday behind the scenes. They just hate the lack of transparency. And I've said in the past, I am very surprised that there hasn't been a class action lawsuit against Faraday, because management has been messing up left, right, and center. But one thing that I have been really looking at, for instance, with Fisker, because under my other channel, Financial Journey, I have been covering Fisker, haven't been bullish, I've just been kind of covering it. And for the longest time, I have been accurately predicting for it to go down. I didn't anticipate to go down this fast, but regardless, it was kind of the writing on the wall, no different than Faraday. And one thing that Fisker does have is that they are hiring. Whereas if you look under Faraday's website, nothing, no jobs available. So behind the scenes, it does not look like they are really doing any expansion, anything, like no optimism. So in my opinion, if I was just looking at this for the very first time, it looks like the company has 100% given up. They have not even attempted to do any fluff PR, because during the beginning of the year, so December and January, like they were doing a lot of fluff, and I was kind of calling them out on that. Still, like this does not seem to be good whatsoever, and it might be done sooner rather than later, because as of right now, and as I've pointed in the past, for any stock to be below 10 cents for 10 consecutive trading days does mean that they are getting kicked off, delisted. And so right now they already are, I guess, delinquent or deficient with one of the NASDAQ rulings, and that is associated to the $1 bid price rule. But them being below 10 cents for 10 consecutive trading days is a complete different deficiency, and that does mean that they'd be immediately bumped off. So once again, we are 5 days in, so that means next week is going to be a very big week for Faraday, because if they still do stay below 10 cents on a consecutive 10-day streak, so that means this upcoming Friday, that means most likely on Monday investors will get the nice surprise saying that they are getting delisted. Faraday can still appeal that, but based off of everything that's been coming out associated, or I guess a lack of, and them doing recent reverse stock splits, because in case you do not know, this is recent reverse splits that they have done. So they did a 1 for 80 on August the 28th, and recently a 1 for 3 on March the 1st. So for them to do a third reverse stock split to rectify that, I think the NASDAQ might just say no go and just immediately kick them off. So it might be OTC possibly as early as mid next week. So we'll just have to wait and see ultimately. One thing I just wanted to bring up though is they did submit a SEC document right here on April the 2nd, and it just says that they are going to be late with their annual filing, and that obviously is just being posted only to kind of avoid another deficiency being done by the NASDAQ. But it does say the company currently expects to file the annual report before the end of April 2024, and in my opinion, not to be extremely bearish, but as I've said, this has kind of been the writing on the wall, they probably will be delisted by the end of April. So it is very unfortunate. So if you guys still do believe in Faraday, now is the time to double check to ensure that your brokerage that you use does allow OTC trading. So again, kind of just be aware of that. As far as some recent updates, I'll go over shorts. There hasn't been all that much activity. So 39.89% of the free float is being shorted. So going into next week, very heavily shorted as usual, but 15.21 million shares overall are being shorted. Utilization is 94.67 and short score is 75.73. By me bringing this up, I'm just bringing this up more of as a sentiment and just as a benchmark. Definitely not saying that Faraday is a squeeze play. The only thing that could really prompt a squeeze play out of this is if a takeover happens, which right now the market cap is for Faraday 3.3 million. So essentially, like, I don't know. I personally would see there being a little bit of value at this price for someone to take over them. But as I've said in the past, what is really holding back from, let's say, Nissan or some entity from the Saudi group, because of course Faraday kind of established that component. So let's say they just wait for Faraday to go belly up, full on bankruptcy that's over and above OTC. Well, then someone could just swoop in for and buy it for 10 cents on the dollar for, let's say, 50,000, 100,000. So why would someone pay 3.3 million right now? So that's kind of what is happening, and that in reality is the only saving grace for Faraday. So it is very interesting how it has all played out. It did have those abnormal spikes, but in my opinion, like I already pointed out, that did have to do with warrants being exercised. So it's just a very flawed stock. And like I said, I'm surprised there hasn't been a lawsuit against Faraday, but then again, with them having virtually no cash, like it's kind of, you can't get blood from a stone essentially. And plus they already do owe Palantir money, which Palantir most likely won't get jack all anyway. So they kind of got screwed out of that deal. As far as options though, interestingly enough, you still see some people playing options, $1,400 in calls, $0 in puts. So kind of 50-50 evenly divided. So most likely that is just shorts, kind of hedging their bets that way. Other than that, I don't see any reason for anyone to touch options with Faraday on the actual chart. And if you are interested in kind of trading Faraday or maybe wanting to average down, again, I'm not really sure why someone would want to do that, but with it at 7.8 cents and change, it is trading between this S2 and this S1. So essentially you do see it in free fall. So this is where it could really continue to trend down to about the 5 cent mark. So just take that into consideration. Again, if there's maybe some more warrants being exercised, then it will potentially run up a little bit. So you do see 8.3 cents and then 14 cents as the next strong resistance points. And so ultimately, if you or someone is warrant holder, so a lot of the toxic lenders out there, they no doubtably will want to kind of exercise everything, and that would be before they do get delisted. So technically you might see a pop here or there, but that is just warrants, like I said, last minute. And so once again, they're going to be doing that conversion and then just selling it on the open market. So this is why you do see those kind of spikes up and then immediate downtrend. And then just looking on the actual chart, you do see it very low. So at 3, I don't think I've ever seen stochastic that low, but it is considered oversold. So if there's a good piece of news that does come out, so let's say Faraday comes out and says, hey, you know what, we got X and X financing or blah, 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 we might be surviving up until the next 6 months or something along those lines, then you could see some institutions maybe getting in, but it's still, I feel like right now is just too far gone. I'm not really sure exactly who is really buying Faraday right now. As I've said, like this has been the writing on the wall for the last 6 months, because even if you look back, a lot of my videos I've been saying reverse stock split, there's going to be a third reverse stock split, blah, blah, blah. Like this is, it's been a very unfortunate scenario because I did have a lot of high expectations for Faraday, just management. There's nobody else to blame other than management. They shit the bed, pardon my French. But right here, number of retail investors haven't been doing anything, kind of just maintaining themselves. So like I said, not really new investors getting in, nor the ones that are currently holding are selling. So they're probably just holding it maybe for OTC just as a tax loss or whatever else. And probably most of the retail investors right now still in Faraday are down like 99.8%. So there is no real advantage essentially to selling. That's just my own opinion, of course. You guys do your own due diligence. So let me know your thoughts on Faraday. If it was to go down to OTC, are you still a fan of it? Have you been buying it, selling it? What have you been doing with Faraday? And one thing I just wanted to share with you, so Seeking Alpha does have alpha pit. picks. So basically, when they did make this portfolio, it was tracking the performance in comparison to the S&P. So S&P, since this was created, I think it was July, it is up 37.5% versus the Alpha Picks up 125.43%. So if you are looking for some good plays, take note of this. Of course, if you're interested, you can always just click on the link in the description below to Seeking Alpha. Has a 7-day free trial and everything, but you can always just read through it. And plus, I really do like this. It goes over all the deep analysis on why they actually are picking these stocks that they do have and everything else. So some of the recent ones aren't necessarily doing the best, but clearly based on the analysis, it seemed to be a pretty good hit ratio overall. So you do see a lot of transactions and when it was done, and also when they did sell out. So you can kind of see when they closed out some of their positions as well. So some of the recent ones are, looks like Brinker International, ticker is EAT. And then over and above that, you have RCL and then CAH and whatever else. So take advantage of that, link in the description below. But one final thing I just wanted to share with you, take advantage of this promo. It is a kick-ass deal. Simply sign up for a new account, throw $100 at it, and they do give you 7 fractional shares of the Mag 7. So a total value of roughly about $35. So take advantage of this, link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.